Fasten your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen, because we are embarking on the application of the chain rule. And here's how it works in general. When you have a composite function like y equals f of g of x, we will use a chain rule when we take the derivative, and that chain rule is bracket f of g of x prime, the derivative, is equal to the derivative of the outer function f with respect to the inner function g of x times, see, the chain rule has a multiplication here, times the derivative of the inner function g with respect to x. Now this is crazy, and it's only after seeing it applied many times that it starts to make some sense. So let's proceed. Given capital F of x equals x minus 1 parenthesis to the 7th power, find f prime of x. Solution. Well, here is what we have in this problem. Our inner function is u equals g of x, which is x minus 1. And our outer function, which we'll call y, is equal to little f of u, which is u to the 7th. Now at this point I'm going to pause the writing and apologize for ever introducing this ridiculous u and this ridiculous y. A lot of textbooks do this because they think it makes it easier for you to understand what's going on. But I wish I had never written it. I wish I had just said, in this example, capital F of x equals parenthesis x minus 1 to the 7th, we have the inner function g of x equals x minus 1, and the outer function little f of x equals x to the 7th. When you compose f composite g of x, you get parenthesis x minus 1 to the 7th power. So forgive me for ever having introduced this u and this y. Let's continue. Let's restate this chain rule. Then capital F prime of x will be equal to bracket little f of g of x with another parenthesis which is missing, prime, equals f prime of g of x, which is a derivative of the outer with respect to the inner, times g prime of x, the derivative of the inner with respect to the x. Okay, derivative of outer with respect to inner times derivative of inner with respect to x. Okay, let us apply this rule to this particular problem, x minus 1 parenthesis to the 7th power. Thus, capital F prime of x is equal to bracket parenthesis x minus 1 to the 7th, close bracket prime, which is equal to apply the power rule, 7 times parenthesis this mess x minus 1 raised to the 7 minus 1 6th power times, here's a chain, times x minus 1 prime. We have to take the derivative of the inner function. That's 1. So we have 7 times x minus 1 to the 6th power. Let's do another one. Capital F of x is equal to 2x minus 1 to the 7th power. And we're asked to find f prime of x. Okay, hold on. Put on the brakes. What do we have for this problem? The inner function now is 2x minus 1. That's our g of x. And the outer function, little f of x, is still what it was in the previous example. It's x to the 7th power. Let's apply the power rule in this case and see how our answer comes out a little different than the example that we just finished. Solution. Capital F prime of x is equal to bracket parenthesis 2x minus 1 to the 7th power bracket prime. Use a power rule, 7 times parenthesis 2x minus 1 to the 7 minus 1 power times, here comes a chain, the derivative of the inner function, 2x minus 1. So that is the derivative being 2. 2 is the derivative of 2x minus 1. So bring the 2 in front, we get 14 times 2x minus 1 to the 2nd power. So let me pause this again. See the difference? The difference between the first example and the second was the g of x was more complicated. When we took the derivative of the inner function in the first example, we just got 1. because it was a derivative of x minus 1. But when we took the derivative of the inner function in the second example, we got 2 because that g of x, that inner function, was 2x minus 1. Okay, now you think those were crazy. Look at this last one. Here we're given capital F of x equals 3 times 2x minus 1 to the 7. Find f prime of x. Okay, what's different here? The only thing that's different here is I put a factor of 3 in the front just to make it a little more interesting. Now, how would we find the derivative of this guy? He's obviously a composite function. The inner function is still g of x equals 2x minus 1, but the outer function now is 3 times x to the 7th power. We will apply the power rule, but the factor of 3 in the front will come along for the ride. Okay, here we go. Solution. Capital F prime of x is equal to bracket 3, parenthesis 2x minus 1, parenthesis to the 7th power, prime, which is 3 times, bring down the 7, times 2x minus 1 to the 7 minus 1 is 6, times the derivative of our inner function, 2x minus 1 prime. Okay, let's figure out what that derivative is. It is times 2, like it was last time. Bring it to the front, we get 42 times, parenthesis, 2x minus 1 to the 6th power. Okay, so each one of these required that we use the power rule for taking the derivative, but in each one of the cases, it was just a little bit of a variation. So study those and make sure that you feel comfortable.